Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me one more time. My name is Ziki and I hope you're all doing very well. I am back again with some news updates. Now, the ZANU-PF party has applauded President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa for engaging the President of the United States of America and, explaining to him the need for the economic sanctions on Zimbabwe to be removed. Okay, now you might recall that recently President Ramaphosa was in the United States where he met Joe Biden, and among other things that they spoke about, they also spoke about the sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe and how they were negatively affecting the growth of the SADC region. So they were calling on the removal of the sanctions. Now, ZANU-PF came out to say, well, what President Cyril Ramaphosa did shows the true brotherhood, okay, between ZANU-PF and the ANC, okay. And so, speaking to journalists at the party headquarters in Harare, the ZANU-PF Secretary for Information and Publicity, Ambassador Christopher Muchanga, said President Ramaphosa did a great thing, okay, in speaking about this thing of sanctions. He said, we applaud the bold stance by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa when he met Joe Biden. It was good to hear it from our powerful regional neighbor. Sanctions against Zimbabwe are damaging growth prospects. Sanctions on Zimbabwe have negatively affected the region as they were meant for regime change, which they see is no longer possible. Okay, they also spoke about, how sanctions, were responsible partly for the migration, for the abnormal migration of Zimbabweans into different countries, okay, mainly into South Africa. Therefore, hearing President Cyril Ramaphosa talk about sanctions to Joe Biden was something of great importance, okay. So I am going to attach for you the video file from the ZANU-PF Secretary for Information and Publicity, okay. But before I go there, I'll move on with some other stories here. President Idi Mnangagwa, before he traveled for the United Nations General Assembly in the US, where he is right now, he spoke virtually on a meeting about education, where he said that there is going to be free basic education in Zimbabwe starting from next year, which is 2023. Okay, I'm not going to comment much on it because I have seen how people were reacting on social media, but I'm just giving you as it is, that he said there's going to be free basic education for all starting from next year. Okay. And again, moving to other stories, Zimbabwe, some few months ago, Zimbabwe, announced gun amnesty, where they were calling on the Zimbabweans with illegal guns to surrender them. Ammunition, whatever they have, to surrender them. There were never going to be any questions asked, or they were never going to be held accountable for anything. So this amnesty is going to be ending end of month. So they're saying, well, you still have some more time to come and surrender these guns. And they were saying so far about 455 guns have been surrendered, with about 260 ammunitions having been surrendered. They're saying, well, you still have enough time to come and surrender this, after which, whenever you're going to be seen with an illegal gun, then there are going to be consequences. Still on that, we also saw that Gweru, the Midlands province, has also announced the ban on the carrying of weapons. When they were talking about weapons, they were mentioning things like the machete, axes, dagger, knives, catapults, knob carries. All those things are now illegal for you to carry, okay, until 31st of December, because they were saying there's been rampant cases of, of violence using all these weapons. So therefore, they're saying it has been banned. If you're seen carrying these, whether there's a stop and search and you're found to be carrying these, you're going to be, in for it. So these are some of the updates that I have for you. But of course, I'm going to come back again with more stories. Right now, stay tuned as I attach for you the video file from ZANU-PF applauding South African President Cyril Ramaphosa.
It's been happening, and I will be highlighting some of them. The first one is the bold stance taken by President Cyril Ramaphosa when he met President Biden during his recent state visit to Washington. The American president heard it from the horse's mouth of our powerful regional neighbor, a regional power, the foremost economy on the African continent, he heard it straight from him that the sanctions against Zimbabwe are damaging the growth prospects of our region. They are creating collateral damage and other spillover effects to our neighbors. He highlighted South Africa's problems with Zimbabwean migration, economic migration, which was induced by the sanctions as of 2002. That's when the people of Zimbabwe started migrating to South Africa in numbers which are historical. Yes, we've always had a migration to South Africa through Wenela because it is the foremost economy on the continent and it is comparatively developed better than ours. So the history of migration to South Africa is not new, but the spike in numbers since 2002 is something which had never happened in the history, and it was a direct result of the collapse of the Zimbabwean economy because of the sanctions which were maliciously and vindictively imposed upon the country in order to effect regime change, because post-imperial Britain and its allies could not countenance the fact that people of Zimbabwe had the gumption to take back the land and completely reverse the colonial and imperial gains they had made in the 1890s. So that aspect of migration took a very upward spike at that time. And this is really testament to the fact that the sanctions, which are ostensibly targeted at individuals, are turning out to actually be a sword of Damocles on the many economies which Zimbabwe is attached to in the region. He mentioned Namibia, he mentioned Botswana, he mentioned South Africa from the point of view of migration. But probably one of the worst hit victims of these sanctions is Mozambique. You know that Zimbabwe is a landlocked country, and the economic hinterland of Mozambique is Zimbabwe. Without Zimbabwe's economic hinterland, the ports of Mozambique cannot be vibrant, cannot be prosperous. They cannot discharge their role of making Zimbabwe trade with the world on the most economical routes to the sea. So this is the collateral damage which, when I say collateral, I'm talking in terms of the language of those who are claiming the sanctions were targeted. It is clear that these sanctions have been devastating to growth of Zimbabwe, but also to the sub-region. And to have Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa take that bold stance and tell President Biden in his face that these sanctions are damaging not only Zimbabwe but the region, it's a good thing. We again go back to our history where the ANC and other liberation movements have always been brothers in arms, and we acquired a political soul as we fought against racism, apartheid, and settler minority rule and colonialism. So we bonded, and it's clear that the dictum that you are my brother's keeper is the one which made President Cyril Ramaphosa tell this to President Biden. He likes the solidarity of NATO against Russia. He should also be happy with the solidarity of SADC with Zimbabwe. It's a similar circumstance where people who share a like mind face common problems and share common aspirations. So thank you, South Africa. Thank you, Comrade Cyril. Thank you, the ANC of South Africa. You are our big brother on the African continent. You took a lead on this issue based on principle and based on brotherhood and based on neighborliness. We are very happy that the voice of South Africa and its weight, which is recognized in international fora, has been spoken loud and clear by the President of South Africa in the capital, in the belly of the beast, in the belly of the beast of hegemony, which is America. I do hope that President Biden takes heed and does the correct thing and goes on to lift the sanctions against Zimbabwe. Sadly, that was not the case. He decided to announce sanctions, even extending them to a police officer. what role that press officer plays in the whole political ecosystem of Zimbabwe is marginal. He is not a factor, but somehow, because those sanctions, they depend on the whims of certain individuals within the CCC. I don't know, maybe he took somebody's girlfriend within the CCC. And as a result of that, they influenced the American government to drop his name, because some people pride on their privilege of having access to certain right-wing and wayward American politicians.